So OAB is a sector of a circle with center O and radius 7. Okay, so you can kind of picture this, guys, as like pretty much part of a full circle, yeah? And they've cut it by some kind of fraction. Now, best way I like to imagine this, guys, is that there's always some kind of angle here. So let's call this angle X. And this is kind of being divided by X out of 360, yeah? So if you got a whole like circle out of 360, then it's going to be X out of it. That's what it is. Now, it tells us that the area of this sector is 40 centimeters squared. So just let's note it down here. And we want to calculate the perimeter sector. So try and work out what P is. Okay. Now, give your answer correct to 3 similar figures. So let's do something first things first. Yeah. Let's go ahead and define what we know. Now, it tells us that the area of a sector generally is always a fraction of the circle. In other words, x over 360 times pi r squared. And we know that the area is 40. So using the general formula, we have something like that. Area equals x over 360 times pi r squared. Now, putting everything we know the area is 40 and the radius is 7. Looks a bit like that. 7 squared is 49, so 49 pi. Now, what we want to do here, guys, is pretty much find the value x. Because when you know the value x, we can use it for something else. So just times in 360 and dividing by 49 pi, you can get x to look like that. And then in your calculator, you're going to get an angle of 93.544 degrees. So my advice for these kind of values here, when you put stuff in the calculator, it's always good to round it up to like, I don't know, like a couple decimal places. Only because, you might need it later on. So now we're at that stage. What's next? We're trying to find the perimeter, right? So we got 7. We need to work out this arc length here. So let's call this arc length L, yeah? Now we can say that the arc length is literally the same kind of formula. It's a fraction of the circle. Again, x over 360 times the circumference, 2 pi r. It's going to look a bit like that. L equals x over 360 times 2 pi r. Sorry if I put a bottom, guys, yeah? Couldn't find no space. And now just replacing what we know what r is, we know what x is, it's going to look like that. So put in your calculator, you're going to get exactly 11.429. And we're done now. So the perimeter is just going to be the sum of these 3 values, 7, 7, and L. And then working that out, you should get 25.4 to 3 similar figures. And that's it. It says show that 6 plus all of this here. And by the way, a square bracket is just another bracket. It's just something so you don't mix up what bracket you're using. So x plus 5 divided by this quadratic over this linear. And we're going to show that all of these terms simplify to a linear over a linear term, where we have to figure out what a, b, c, and d is. Now, what I would personally do, guys, is literally ignore the 6 plus for a second, yeah? Let's just work inside the bracket. And let's just try and apply the rules. Now, the first thing we need to know is that because you've got a little division sign here, division literally means times, but flip the other fraction upside down. So we're going to have to flip this upside down. So look a bit like that. And we're going to have essentially 6 plus. And just to make it kind of clear, I also put this over 1 because so that way we can kind of see that the fractions line up. So any term is always over 1. Now all you want to do, guys, is probably just factorize the bottom half, yeah? So let's look at this quadratic for a second. X squared plus 3x minus 10. To factorize it, all you need is 2 numbers that multiply to make 10. So for example, let's say 2 and 5, yeah? When we do this, you can realize that with 2 and 5, you can make a plus 3 if you have a plus 5 and a minus 2, okay? So it's going to look like that, plus 5 and minus 2. Now all you want to do is literally use the times rule, and if you're times in 2 fraction, guys, you just hit it head on. So it'd be x plus 5 times that, 1 times this. However, what we could do is something small. We could cancel down. We can cancel this and that. You can cancel terms. And then it reduces to simply x minus 1 over x minus 2. And we could just leave it open like that. Now, what you want to do here is pretty much combine the whole number of a fraction. And if you remember, a whole number is always the same as like over 1, so 6 over 1. And to add fractions, you need to have a common denominator. So far, we got x minus 2 here and we got 1. So in other words, we need to times the right side by 1, which is the same. We times the left side by x minus 2 in the bracket here. So it will look something like this. It will literally be 6 times x minus 2 plus x minus 1 all over x minus 2. Basically like that. Okay, nice and simple. And then all you want to do is just, expand the bracket. And then we can have 6x minus 12. And just open this one up. And one little tip. You never need to really deal with the bottom. Always leave it factorized, yeah? And then collecting like terms, 6x plus x is 7x. Minus 12 minus 1 is minus 13. And voila, guys, we're done. So we can just say straight off the bat that a is going to be 7. B is going to be 13. C is going to be 1 because it's like 1x, and D is going to be 2. And that's it. Question 14. So a car moves from rest. The graph gives information about the speed v meters per second of the car t seconds after it moves. Okay, so across the horizontal axis, guys, we've got time, and across the upwards we got speed. Yeah, and when they say the word rest, what they're trying to say is that from initial speed of 0. So you're starting from right at the beginning. Yeah. Now for part A, they want us to calculate an estimate of the gradient of the graph at time equals 15. Alright, so what this is essentially saying, guys, is that all you got to do is literally tick off this 15 here, and you just have to draw kind of a straight tangent line, yeah? So a line that hits exactly at 15 at one point. So it's kind of tricky to do, but you need a ruler that just places like that. So what I've done, like I've just tried it a few times, and I got something like this, okay? So this is an example of a tangent line. So it's always good to label it as well. So tangent. Now what this tells us here is that in order to find an estimate of the gradient, just like in general y equals mx plus c equations, to find a gradient you just literally need to find the change in y over the change in x. So in this sense, it's the change in the y coordinates over the change in x. In our case, it's going to be the change in v because the y-axis is v. So we just got to recognize these coordinates here. So at this point, you can see that the x coordinate is 15 and the y coordinate is actually, well, what's it going up in? It's going up, so in every 2 blocks is 1 unit, so it'll be 16, 17, 18. So we can say that this coordinate here is going to be 15 and 18, whereas we can pick another point. Let's just pick the one over here because it's easy to see. It's going to be 0 and 7.5. So 0 and 7.5. And now to find the change in y over change in x is the change in coordinates. So we can say that the gradient being the change in v over change in t, subtracting 2 pairs, so 18 take away 7.5, and 15 take away 0, you're going to put this in the calculator and get 0.7. Now the good thing is this question is that even if you don't get this exact value, if you get anywhere between 0.6 to 1 as your gradient, you get the mark, as long as the method is kind of similar. Now for part 2, it says describe what your answer in part 1 actually means. Well, what's actually happening here is that you can see that as time goes on, the speed is going up. So we could just say nicely, increase in speed over time. Okay, or you can say there's a kind of acceleration going on, because that's how you increase from speeds, is by accelerating. And that's all. Now for part B, it says work out an estimate for the distance the car travels in the first 20 seconds of its journey. Okay, so we're talking about from 0 to 20 up to here, yeah? And use 4 strips of equal width. Okay, so typically for distance, to work out distance, is literally the area under the curve, or area under a shape. Now because it's a curve, it's kind of hard to see what shape it would be. But because they want to draw 4 strips of equal width, it means that from 0 to 20, you need 4 lines. And well, you can see that 20 divided by 4 is 5. So you can do strips at every 5 points. So like 1 here, 1 there, 1 here, and even 1 there. Now looking at this carefully, to work out the area of each shape, we can kind of like estimate it, because that's what they want. So you can kind of think of 0 to 5 as some sort of like triangle, and from 5 to 10 as a trapezium, another trapezium, and another trapezium. Okay? Now, well, to work out the area of a triangle is quite okay. It's literally base times height, and then you half it. So you can see that the base for all of these is 5, which is good. So it'll be 5 times the height. In this case, the height here should be 4, by the way. So every 2 blocks is 4. So 5 times 4 is 20. Divided by 2 gives you 10. Now to work out this one for trapezium, the area of trapezium is a bit different. What you first have to do is find the average of 2 heights. So let's have a look. The first height here is 4, and the second height goes up to, what's that, 12. So it'll be 4 plus 12, and then you find average, 4 plus 12 over 2, and then you times against its width, 5. So 4 plus 12 over 2 times 5 will give us a result of 40. And then repeat the same here. The good thing is, like, you're always going to start with the next number. So because you know this was 12, this will be 12 again. The height here will now be 18, like we found earlier. So it'll be 12 plus 18 over 2 times 5. Put this in your calculator and you get 75. And then repeat for the third case. You're going to have 18 and 20 this time. And 18 plus 20 over 2 times 5 will give us 95. And that's it, guys. And now to work out the distance, is literally just adding up the areas, yeah? So we can say distance equals 10 plus 40 plus 75 plus 95. Again, in your calculator, you should get a nice answer of 220. So the total distance is 220 meters. So make M the subject of this formula. Okay, so this one's pretty cool. Now, to make M the subject, guys, first thing you always want to do every time you have an algebraic fraction is to always clear that fraction, yeah? So you just want to get rid of M minus 1. Well, to do that, to clear fraction, you just got to multiply by itself. So what I'll do is I'll times m minus 1 across, so that goes and it sticks on f, a bit like that. And then from here, guys, all you want to do is expand the bracket, yeah? Expanding this, f times m is fm, and f times 1 is f, so you get something like that, and copy the rest. Now, from here, the best thing to do is to, in order to make m the subject, you should try and move all the m terms on the same side, yeah? So far, it looks to me like we got an fm over here, and we got 3m over here. So we want to basically shift this across here. And once we got all the m terms on one side, it's good. And then we just get rid of the non-f terms across. So here we got the minus f, and that can go on this side. And to move it across, we're going to have to add f. To move 3m across, we're going to minus 3m. Yeah, so when you move everything across, you end up something like this, yeah? So you got fm minus 3m now, and then 4 plus f. So you just did the changes. We just swapped the positions around. Okay, so this step is actually quite tricky because you either know or you don't know what to do. Now, if you know what to do, you realize that because they both got m's here, you could factorize them out. And that's it. If you factorize the common term out, you're going to get f minus 3 in a bracket. Just like that. And then finally, guys, to make m the subject, just throw f minus 3 across. If you divide it, you're just going to get 4 plus f over f minus 3. And that's it. So the straight line L has the equation 3y equals 4x plus 7. Alright? The point A has this coordinate, 3 and minus 5. Okay, so before I read the rest of this, every time you're given a straight line in any equation, yeah, so typically these types, yeah, always rewrite this into this form, into the y equals mx plus c, yeah? In this case, where m is your gradient and c is your y-intercept, okay? Basically, when you do this, it will make the layer equations easier. So if I had to do this right now, yeah, to rearrange this into that form, you can just see that to get y equals, you got to divide it by 3. So if I divide the whole thing by 3, you're going to get 4 over 3 and 7 over 3. So it'll look a bit like that. Y equals 4 thirds x plus 7 thirds. And instantly you can see the m value is 4 thirds. And that's what we care about. Now the next part says, find an equation of the straight line that is perpendicular to the line that we're interested in. So this line, so perpendicular to that. And pass it through that point A with that coordinate. Right. Now to find this perpendicular line, what you guys need to know is that you need a perpendicular gradient, okay? To get the perpendicular gradient, you just use the previous gradient, flip it upside down, and change the sign. So it looks like that. M equals minus 4, minus 3 over 4. And this is known as the negative reciprocal, okay? You always do that. If they told you to find a straight line that is parallel, then you actually have to use the same gradient. So instead, the gradient will still be 4 thirds. But perpendicular means upside down, change the sign. Okay, so now you got this new gradient. You can substitute this one into your current formula. So y equals mx plus c. Replaces m with that value and keep this c as is. You're going to get this, okay? What this tells us now is that we just have to find what c is, and then we've done the question. Okay, so to find the coordinates, to find the y-intercept, you can use the information they give you, which is passes through a. What this means is that if you replace x and y, yeah, with 3 and minus 5, you're going to get like this. You could end up getting minus 5 equals, and then minus 3 over 4 times 3, which is minus 9 over 4, plus c. And to get c, just rearrange it, guys, yeah? Just add 9 over 4 across. So you're going to have minus 5 plus 9 over 4, and you're going to get a c value of minus 11 over 4. By the way, guys, because it's a calculator test, always use your calculator. Literally, don't bother working out in your head. It's not necessary. Now that you got the c value, you just substitute this back into your original equation here, and then you realize that your new value, your final equation is going to be y equals minus 3 over 4x minus 11 over 4. And you're done. It's that easy. I just want to thank you guys for coming to this end of my channel, and if you've enjoyed the content so far, just go into my channel page, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for more notifications, and if you want, you can do personalized or all, and that way you won't miss any future maths or educational videos. Anyway guys, thank you for watching and see you next time. Ciao.